There are two kinds of girls, the ones who beg for affection and the ones who attract it like honey attracts flies, the ones who sit by the phone hoping for a call, and the ones whose phones never stop ringing. Mirabel of Enugu town belonged to the second category. She didn't chase love, love chased her. Men paid for her, bought her gifts, and fought for her attention like bees scrambling for sugar. Mirabel was not like other girls. She didn't wait for boys to call her. No, it was boys who waited by their phones, hoping she would reply. Some of them even prayed just to hear her say their name. Every time she walked through the market or past the junction, men stopped what they were doing. Some whistled, some stared, some followed her like goats chasing the smell of yam porridge. In 1 year alone, 5 men knelt to propose. All of them bought rings. All of them gave gifts. None of them lasted. Mirabel would laugh and tell her friends, "They are all the same, too soft, too slow. I want a man who knows how to hold power." She never dated one boy at a time. If you thought she was yours, someone else was already picking her up after you dropped her off. She always had a second and sometimes a third man, hiding in the corner like spare shoes in a cupboard. She would say, "A woman must have backup. If one fails, another will take over. Love is like generator. Always have spare fuel." She would collect gifts, collect love, collect promises. But the moment she got tired, she would leave like dry wind blowing away leaves. If any man tried to complain, Mirabel would fold her arms and say, "Did I force him to date me? He's lucky I even replied his message." To Mirabel, love was like a market stall. If you don't bring money, you can't buy. She made her own rule. If you want to be my boyfriend, you must pay every month like you are paying for TV subscription. More like how people recharge their phones to browse the internet. She expected her boyfriends to send her money like clockwork. She called it relationship subscription. "If you can't pay," she would say, "then don't waste my time." One boy tried to joke and said, "Are you a network provider?" Mirabel laughed and said, "I'm more than a network provider. I'm the full network. If you don't pay, you will lose connection." To Mirabel, every man was like an ATM standing in front of her. Some gave daily, some gave weekly. The best ones sent her alerts every month without her asking. She kept them close. She called them sweet names like honey and my king. But once the alert stopped, her calls stopped too. She wasn't ashamed, not even a little. "I'm not stealing," she told her friends. "I'm just collecting what I deserve." Even birthdays became business. "If you're not sending a gift, don't call me at all," she would say. Mirabel lived a life where love cost her nothing but returned everything. Everywhere she went, men wanted her. And she took from them money, gifts, attention, then moved on. No guilt, no tears, just gain. Her friends watched her with wide eyes. Some wanted to be like her. Others were afraid for her. But Mirabel didn't care. She believed the world belonged to her. She believed no man could ever break her. Some girls whispered, "Won't this backfire?" Mirabel just laughed. "Backfire how? Am I the first? Please let them rest." But what she didn't know was that life was taking notes. It was quiet, but it was watching. Little did she know all these would lead her to meet her end, because what goes around truly comes around. And it all began with a man named Obinna. Obinna was a soft man with a big heart. When he loved, He loved like morning sun, warm, full, and steady. From the first day he met Mirabel, his heart followed her like a puppy chasing its owner. He paid her house rent without blinking. He filled her kitchen with food, meat, drinks, everything. He even bought her a small fridge and said, "I want you to be comfortable." Mirabel smiled and kissed his cheek. "You're different," she said. But her eyes were not smiling. Obinna loved her so much. He took her to meet his family. His people were kind, but one person stood out: his father, Chief Ankim. A man with voice like thunder and face like carved stone. He was tall, rich, and walked like he owned the sky. His house was big. His chairs were soft. His wristwatch alone could buy a plot of land. The first time Mirabel saw him, her heart jumped. "This one has real money," she thought. From that day, her eyes left Obinna and followed the father. She started visiting, even when Obinna wasn't around. "I came to greet your dad," she said sweetly. "He likes my cooking." But the truth, Mirabel was already in a secret affair with Obinna's father. What Obinna didn't know was that Mirabel wasn't just cooking for his father. She was giving him more than just food. One day became two. Two became many. Soon, the father and Mirabel started doing things behind closed doors. Secret touch, soft whispers, midnight visits. Obinna noticed small things. One day he walked in and saw his father adjusting his wrapper too fast. Another time, he heard soft laughter from the kitchen, laughter that didn't belong to cooking. He asked Mirabel, "What's going on?" She looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Are you accusing your future wife of cheating with your own father?" Obinna blinked. He believed her until the day he came home early. He opened the guest room and saw it with his own eyes. His father, Mirabel, together, in bed. They froze. Obinna didn't shout. He didn't cry. He turned around, picked his keys, and left. Next day, Mirabel packed her bag and left too. No sorry, no message. She blocked his number. She didn't look back. To her, it was just another day, another man, another gain. And just like that, she moved on. But when you thought she'd regret, what she did to the next man, Elvis, was even crazier. Elvis was the mayor's only son. He wore fine clothes, drove a clean car, and smelled like expensive soap. But his heart was soft, soft like pap freshly cooked in the morning. When he met Mirabel, he fell fast, like mango falling from a tall tree. He sent her breakfast every day. He sent her money without asking. He even paid for her sister's hospital bill once. "Elvis is too sweet," Mirabel told her friends. "But I don't like sweet boys." Still, she took everything he gave. Money, airtime, perfume, bags, everything. He was her walking wallet. When Elvis called her 10 times a day, she rolled her eyes. "Can't this boy rest?" she said. He said, "I love you." She replied, "Buy me something." He said, "I miss you." She said, "Send money first." Right from the start, Mirabel never appreciated anything Elvis did for her. Not the gifts, not the money, not even his time. She always felt entitled to everything he gave. "I'm his girlfriend," she would say boldly. "So his money is automatically mine." Worse still, she constantly complained. Elvis, who gave her attention and treated her with respect, was seen by Mirabel as weak. "You're too soft," she would say to him. "Always available, always texting. I can't stand a man that doesn't have age." Still, Elvis didn't stop. He believed Mirabel would change. He believed that one day she would see his love and accept it with her whole heart. So, Elvis made a plan. He wanted to do something big, something she would never forget. He booked a private dinner in the best restaurant in town. There were roses on the table, soft music in the air, and candles dancing like stars. Mirabel walked in, wearing a red dress and rolling her eyes. Too much effort for nothing, she whispered under her breath. But Elvis smiled. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating fast. When the food was served, Elvis stood up. He brought out a small box. Then he knelt down and opened it. "Mirabel," he said with his eyes shining, "will you marry me?" Everything stopped. Even the music seemed to go quiet. Everyone in the restaurant turned to watch. Mirabel looked at the ring, then looked at Elvis. Her face changed, and what she did next broke every heart in that room. Mirabel didn't smile back. Instead, she threw her head back and laughed. Not a small laugh, a loud one, a laugh that made people in the restaurant turn around. She looked at the ring and scoffed. "So this is it?" she asked. "Just a ring. Where is the car? Where is the house key?" Elvis's hand dropped a little. Mirabel stood up, adjusted her dress, and looked around the room. Everyone was staring. Some were shocked. Some looked away. But Mirabel didn't care. She pointed at the ring and said, "Girls like me don't say yes without keys to a brand new car or a grand mansion and a diamond ring that can blind the sun. I'm not cheap. Is this how you propose to a girl like me? This is embarrassing." Elvis stayed on his knees. His face turned red, his eyes filled with tears. Mirabel picked up her purse and walked out of the restaurant like nothing happened. Her heels clicking, her head high. Outside, she called a taxi and went home. Elvis? He stayed there, broken like a cracked plate. That night, he cried and cried until he had no more tears. When he got home, his father, the mayor, was waiting. The news had already spread. People were laughing. His friends were mocking him. The mayor was angry. He pointed at Elvis and shouted, "You let a girl disgrace this family? You are going to London tomorrow. Go and clear your head." And just like that, Elvis was sent abroad. Mirabel? She went to her friends and told them everything. "I warned him," she said, sipping juice. "He was not on my level." Her friends didn't laugh. They looked at her with quiet eyes. One of them, Ankechi, shook her head and said, "Mirabel, one day it will reach you too." Mirabel rolled her eyes. "It can't," she said. "I know what I'm doing." But Ankechi didn't say anything else. Because deep down, she knew. A heart that keeps breaking others will one day feel what it means to be broken. Mirabel didn't stop, not even for a breath. When one man left, two more came. She picked the ones with thick wallets and soft minds, the ones who said, "I'll do anything for you." And she made them do everything. New men, new gifts, new transfers. She changed boyfriends the way people change clothes after rain. If one man bought her phone today, another was booking her a weekend trip tomorrow. If one sent her 10,000, another sent 50. She broke hearts like biscuits. Snap, drop, done. Some caught her cheating. One walked in and found another man sleeping in her bed. He cried. She said, "What were you expecting? Loyalty?" Another one found out she was dating his friend too. He begged. She looked him in the eye and said, "Please respect yourself." "I didn't tie your neck." Every time she walked away without guilt. Her favorite line was, "It's not my fault. I didn't force anybody to love me." Her friends stopped warning her. They just watched. But something had started to change. Slow, quiet, like water drying under the sun. Mirabel was now 29, almost 30. No more wedding proposals, no more surprises at her door. Even the men she used to block were no longer calling. The silence became louder, the music. The echo of her own footsteps followed her at night. Her phone, once full of sweet names, now rang only for delivery riders and spam callers. She sat on her bed one evening, looked around her quiet room, and sighed. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to settle down. But life does not forget, and her own was just beginning to remind her. Mirabel turned 30, her face still fine like ripe mango, her shape still full like calabash. But something had changed. The calls slowed down, the messages dried up. No more sweet, "Good morning, my queen." No more, "Send me your account." Only two types of men still chased her now. Married men who wanted secret things, and small boys with loud mouths and empty pockets. The serious men were gone. The ones who once wanted to marry her were now married. Some even had children already. The only ones left were men with grey lies and empty pockets. Men who were either married or moving from house to house looking for free food. Mirabel sat one day and said to herself, "I will never be second wife." But the truth was hard. Even the chance to be first wife was no longer coming. She would dress up, walk around town, attend weddings, even sit at the front of church, hoping to catch one real man's eye. But all she got was, "Are you still single? Ah, you're not married yet? What are you waiting for?" She began to feel it. Loneliness. The table that used to be full of options was now empty. The game she played for years had turned around, and now the player was alone on the field. 5 years passed, and Mirabel, once surrounded by attention and luxury, was now surrounded by silence. Until one day, Dave walked into her life. One hot afternoon, when the sun sat lazily in the sky, Mirabel met a man named Dave. Dave was not like the others. He didn't kneel. He didn't beg. He didn't send money on the first day. He just looked at her and said, "You're fine, but I'm not like other men." Mirabel blinked. Her heart skipped like a goat running from rain. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had ever looked at her without begging for attention. But Dave looked straight into her eyes and didn't flinch. From that day, Mirabel's heart started to beat in a different way. She couldn't sleep without thinking of him. She smiled at her phone, waiting for his message. And when it came, it was never too much. Just enough to keep her chasing. She told her friends, "This one is different." She started doing things she had never done before. She woke up early to cook. She cleaned Dave's apartment like it was hers. She wore her natural hair, no wigs, no eyelashes, no long nails, just the way Dave liked it. She even spent her own money on him, bought him shirts, shoes, and perfume. "He's the one," she whispered one night, staring at her ceiling. "I found my husband." But what she didn't know was that Dave was no husband. He was, in fact, a nemesis. Dave wasn't sent to marry her. He was sent to teach her. And the lesson? It was coming with cold hands and no warning. Dave had sweet tongue, but his mind was sharp like razor. He knew how to speak soft, yet cut deep. One evening, as Mirabel was getting dressed, he looked at her and said, "Why do you wear all this makeup? You don't need it." Mirabel smiled. She wiped her face. "Next week," he said, "why do you still hang out with those girls? They're not serious." Mirabel nodded. She stopped picking their calls. Then came the big one. This your small business. It's taking too much of your time. Quit it. After our wedding, we'll build something bigger. Mirabel closed her shop. Just like that. She started staying home, waiting, cleaning, cooking, like a wife. But there was no ring yet. She told herself, this is love. Sacrifice is normal. She smiled in front of others, but inside, small cracks were forming, like tiny lines on a clay pot. She missed her old life sometimes, the freedom, the laughter, the control, but she pushed the thoughts away. I'm building a future, she whispered. Dave is worth it. She didn't know Dave was not building a future. He was building a plan cold like night breeze. And she was the only one who couldn't see it coming. They moved in together. 4 months later, they fixed a wedding. The morning of the wedding was beautiful. Mirabel's makeup artist arrived early. Her gown was pristine. Her bridesmaids whispered and giggled behind her, complimenting her glow. For once in her life, she felt chosen, not as a trophy, but as a woman finally loved for who she was. By 10 a.m., guests had started arriving. Her mother, who had never approved of her lifestyle, hugged her proudly. The hall was dressed in gold and white. A saxophonist played softly while waiters placed drinks on round tables. Cameras flashed, laughter echoed. Everyone was waiting for the groom. Mirabel sat quietly, her heart warm, her fingers holding her bouquet tight. She smiled to herself and whispered, today I become a wife. But time started ticking. Tick, tock, tick. People looked around. Where is the groom? Mirabel kept checking her phone. No message from Dave. He's probably dressing, she told herself. Then the officiant came forward and whispered, can we call the groom to the front now? Mirabel smiled nervously. She nodded. One of the groomsmen went outside to fetch Dave. 5 minutes passed. 10. The music stopped. Whispers began. Someone said, is this part of the plan? Mirabel kept checking her phone. No message from Dave. She dialed his number. It rang, but he didn't pick. He's probably on his way, she said, forcing a smile. Maybe traffic. Minutes passed. Then more. A full hour went by. Mirabel called again. This time, the number was switched off. A strange coldness filled her chest. She turned to one of her cousins and said, please go and check his place. Maybe he needs help. The cousin returned 30 minutes later looking pale. The gate was locked. Nobody answered. His car is not there. Mirabel stood still. Her hands fell to her sides. She called again. This time the number said, the number you are calling is switched off. Again. Mirabel blinked. She looked around the hall. No groomsmen. No friends of Dave. None of his family members had even shown up. That was when it hit her. Dave wasn't coming. But why? She had no idea. No message. No call. No warning. Her hands trembled. Her chest tightened. Her knees felt weak. She sat quietly, her veil slipping from her head, tears rolling slowly. The whispers grew louder. People stood and began to leave. Some shook their heads. Others just looked at her with quiet pity. Mirabel sat still. Her veil slipped off. Her hands trembled. Her gown felt heavy, like it was carrying her shame. She looked at the empty seat meant for Dave. Still empty. People were whispering. Some stood up. Some shook their heads. Some just stared, lips tight, eyes wide. Mirabel stood. She didn't say a word. She removed her heels, one by one. Her bare feet touched the cold ground. Then she walked, out of the hall, out of the compound, into the street. Her gown dragged behind her, catching dust and stones. She passed people who knew her. They whispered. They pointed. Is that not Mirabel? Where's the groom? Ah, shame. She didn't look at them. She walked through the market, past her old school, past the place where Dave first kissed her hand. The sun was hot. The road was long. But she kept walking until she reached the old bridge, the one people avoided at night. She stood at the edge, looked down. The water moved slowly, like it was waiting. Mirabel whispered, I gave everything. My heart, my body, my money, my pride. Tears rolled down her face. What is the point of life, she whispered, when everything I lived for has gone? Then she closed her eyes and jumped. Pa Benji was an old man. His back was bent, his beard white like salt, and his eyes quiet like morning dew. Long ago, he was a soldier. Now he fished by the river. Simple life, small canoe, one net, one hook. That evening, he had already gone home, but something touched his chest. Software, strange, like a whisper. Go back, it said. He picked his paddle, rowed out again. Just as he was casting his net, he heard the splash. The sound was loud, not the sound of fish. Pa Benji stood up. His eyes scanned the water. Then he saw it, a floating white gown, a hand, a face. He rowed fast. His old arms moved like they were young again. He reached the spot and pulled the body close. It was a woman. Her skin was cold. Her lips were blue. But her heart was still beating, just a little. He dragged her into the boat, unconscious but breathing. He grabbed her quickly, pulled her into the boat. She was cold, heavy, still. He didn't wait. He paddled home with legs shaking and heart loud. In his small hut, he laid her down, covered her, boiled herbs, rubbed her skin, prayed with his cracked voice. 2 days passed. On the third morning, her fingers moved. Her eyes opened, slow, weak. Pa Benji sat beside her. Who are you, child? He asked gently. The girl looked at him, her lips dry, her voice like breeze. Mirabel, she whispered. Pa Benji didn't talk too much. He let Mirabel rest. He gave her hot yam and pepper soup. He covered her with an old wrapper when the night was cold. He swept the floor gently when she slept. And every morning, he placed a cup of herbs by her side. Mirabel said nothing for days. She just stared at the wall. Sometimes she sat outside and watched the birds fly. Other times, she closed her eyes and wished she could disappear. Then one day, as the rain tapped gently on the roof, Mirabel broke down. She cried and cried and cried. Her tears fell like flood. Her body shook like tree in storm. Pa Benji sat beside her and held her hand. She told him everything about Obinna, about his father, about Elvis and the shame, about the boys she used, the money she collected, about Dave, and the wedding that never happened, and how she walked to the bridge. He left me, she said, on our wedding day, in front of everybody. Pa Benji looked at her, calm. She kept going. I gave him everything, my body, my heart, my money. I even blocked all my friends, closed my shop, changed myself, and he vanished. Just like that. Her voice cracked like old wood. He didn't call, didn't say sorry. He left me to drown. Pa Benji didn't rush his words. He looked at her kindly and said, You are broken, child, but you are not dead. She blinked. Her tears paused. As long as you are breathing, you can rise again. Mirabel looked at him, her eyes wide. Later that day, Pa Benji's nephew came to visit. He knocked on the wooden door, smiling, carrying bread and groundnut. Pa Benji opened the door and said, "Ah, Dave, my son, you came." Mirabel, sitting on the mat, froze. She turned slowly. Her eyes widened. Her mouth opened. She stood up, pointed her finger, and shouted, "You!" Dave dropped the bread. His face turned pale. The house went silent. The storm that Mirabel thought was over had just walked through the door. Dave stood at the door like a thief caught in daylight. His lips moved, but no words came out. His eyes met Mirabel's, and they both burned, one with shame, the other with pain. Pa Benji looked from Mirabel to Dave. "What is this?" he asked, confused. Mirabel's voice cracked. "That's him. That's the one who left me on my wedding day." Dave dropped his head. "I didn't mean for her to jump," he said quietly. "It was a dare." Pa Benji frowned. "A what?" Dave took a deep breath. "Her exes, her friends, they laughed about her. They said Mirabel could never fall in love, that her heart was made of stone. They dared me to break her. I told them I could make her fall and walk away. I thought it was just a joke." Mirabel's knees gave way. She sat on the floor, her hands shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks like slow rain. "I gave you everything," she whispered. "I changed for you." Dave looked at her, eyes red. I didn't know it would go this far." Pa Benji stood up slowly. His voice was calm, but strong like thunder, hiding behind clouds. "Return all you took from her," he said. Dave nodded. "I will." He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He just turned around and walked away. His footsteps quiet, like a thief leaving a broken home. Mirabel sat there, silent. The truth had come out, and the wound, though deep, had finally been opened. Mirabel went back to Enugu. The same streets, the same faces, but everything had changed. She didn't walk with loud steps anymore. She didn't wear shiny wigs, no eyelashes, no noise, just quiet. Some people pointed, some whispered, "She's back. Is that not the girl who jumped?" Mirabel didn't reply. She opened a small stall near the junction, sold fish, fresh ones, smoked ones. She cleaned them herself, hands wet, clothes simple. Morning till evening she worked. She didn't beg. She didn't boast. She just worked. At first, people watched from far. Then they started greeting her, then helping her carry things. Slowly, quietly, they began to respect her, not for her looks, not for her beauty, but for her strength. One morning, as she was washing fish, Pa Benji came with someone. A quiet man, rough hands, gentle eyes. "Meet Davis," Pa Benji said. Mirabel wiped her hands and smiled small. Davis smiled back. He didn't come with flowers. He didn't ask silly questions. He just said, "I heard your fish is good." They laughed. Next day, he came again, then again, then again. No promises, no lies, just truth and peace. One evening, under a quiet tree near the river, Davis brought out a small ring. No crowd, no music, just wind, just birds. He looked at Mirabel and said, "Will you marry me?" Mirabel looked at him. No tears, no dancing, just a soft smile. "Yes," she whispered. They didn't plan a big wedding. No loud DJ, no saxophone, no white lace that swept the ground. Just a small ceremony. Few chairs, one pastor, two hearts ready. Mirabel didn't wear makeup. She didn't wear heels. She wore peace. Not the peace that comes from money, but the peace that comes from knowing pain and choosing not to live in it. As they stood together, holding hands, she didn't feel like a queen on a throne. She felt like a woman who had fallen and stood back up. she had learned that love is not food you buy, that hearts are not toys for breaking, and that life always balances its books. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day the wind will return what you threw into it. And Mirabel, she had caught her own wind, and this time she held it gently. Moral of the story: a person can play with hearts for years, thinking they're untouchable. But life has a way of serving lessons, hot and sharp. Love is not a game. Hearts are not toys. And even the strongest fall when they build their pride on the pain of others. But even then, there is redemption for those who choose to rise not with arrogance, but with humility. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. Thank you.